All right, and welcome to Hattrick Sports Talk. We are currently recording this at 8 o'clock Pacific on a Saturday this week. I got Shane, I got Brandon. Say hello, guys.
Hey,
Hello.
what is happening?
What is up? All right, we are starting off the show weirdly, partially because this was probably the most fun event of Memorial Day weekend. We have some golf that we're talking about.
Have we
We are
ever talked about golf at all?
we talked about Tiger like once.
Can we talk
Oh
about
yeah.
how golf has such a strange name?
What do you
Golf.
mean by it's a strange
Just
name?
just have you ever thought about how weird it is coming off the tongue? Just
Golf.
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 Golf. Golf?
All
What's
right.
even weirder is the fact that we call football in America. You
Oh
don't
yeah,
even
that's
use your
true.
foot that
Because
much.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You only use your foot to
Anyways,
like kick field goals and do kickoffs and stuff
Should
and
be called
punts.
kickball.
things that don't matter. Anyways,
All right, so I want to talk about match part two. Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning win by one stroke over Tom Brady and Phil Mickelson. What were your guys' thoughts on a pretty entertaining, surprisingly entertaining, I should say, match?
I think Brady needs to wear looser pants for starters. Um, but yeah, I mean, despite the unfavorable weather conditions and you know whatever kind of stuff was going on in terms of Brady not necessarily playing as well as he maybe could have been.
No, he was horrible. He was
Yeah.
terrible, other than like one
Um,
shot.
but seeing him and do his dumb quips and then have Peyton just flame him, it's always fun. Um, and then yeah, it was just good to see something like that, especially with everything happening right now and whatever. It was just kind of a cool thing. And now there may be a part three. We will see.
Yes, there may be a part three. Brandon, what were your thoughts on the match?
I mean, it was golf. I don't know. I'm not much of a golf guy. I watched some of it. It seemed fairly uncomfortable golfing in the rain.
Yeah,
Like that's my question. Like, who wants to golf in the rain?
you know that they like never do that, right? Like if it rains
Yeah,
out, they like push it back. But like, who cares? It's a match play. Like we'll play in the rain. Who cares?
Yeah, it's not like it means a whole lot in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it was really fun. Like I mean, they raised $20 million for COVID-19 relief, which was great. But it was the most watched golf event in history. The history of golf. Over 6 million people tuned in, and I
Well,
just
yeah, because there's nothing else to do right
right.
now.
That's true. That's true. But I think this is that was by far the most fun I ever had watching golf. And I watch all the majors, right? I watch a good portion of all the majors, and I thought this was better than any major ever in terms of intrigue and fun. And I just thought overall, I mean, it was really playful, of course, but I think this is something that should continue. And they honestly should have done this last year when just Tiger and Phil did it, because that was boring. That was
so
one of the most boring golf.
I don't know if I would compare this to majors.
In terms of like fun factor, though, I would say that this is much better.
I mean, when is there fun in the majors?
Right.
Like
That's
watching
true.
the majors, I always have the thought of like, wow, these guys are like really making it not seem like fun to play golf.
That's your feeling?
Whenever I watch the majors, anybody who's golfing, I'm always like, wow, you seem like you're not having a good time at all.
Because it's way too serious.
It's not a very good advertisement for like people who want to get into golf. However, watching this, I think I told you this, Robert. Watching
The match?
the match is the only time in my life I've ever actually had the thought of, huh, that actually seems like it'd be kind of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to play golf, though. I've been wanting to do it for at least 5 years now. And it's mostly because I've watched the majors, but I think this definitely made me feel like, oh, this can be really fun to get a bunch of friends together and just go on the ranges and go golfing.
I know I would be absolutely terrible at it, but
Right. I mean, you have to start at the driving range, as I said, and
Yeah.
kind of move your way up. But yeah, definitely. I think
Well,
that
'cause that's
was
the
one of the biggest takeaways.
I mean, that's the thing about it is like when you do go to a golf course just with your friends or with your family or whatever, yeah, you just mess around and have fun. It's not all serious and
Yeah.
okay, let's be quiet and okay, there
Yeah.
goes the shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like that. You you know, you have your drinks and the adults grab a dozen cans of beer and hang out and
Yeah.
whatever, you know.
Go on the golf carts. I thought the golf carts
Yeah.
were really fun too, by the way. Really great
Yeah.
designs for those
Dude,
carts
their
as well.
golf carts were like souped out, like friggin' really just zipped around the courses, unlike other ones, which are
Yeah. And like the camera work too. Props to Turner, because obviously it's unique with all the social distancing measures, but the cams and the carts, it just felt like a really good broadcast considering the circumstances. And I think that's something that other leagues are going to look to and say, oh, this is the way we can broadcast our sport in a really unique way that doesn't feel unnatural.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the MLB. This was a really pretty crazy week for MLB with these proposals. Players, so a bunch of news. So players want 100-plus games prorated salaries. The players had a call later in the week saying they were pretty they were pretty like together, I should say, and then they were like they were disappointed by the proposal. They thought it was disrespectful to cut the salaries as much as they did. And then Matt Scherzer said something that he said, I'm tired of negotiating with them. And now the MLB is kind of weighing the timing and substance of a potential response to the proposal. What is your thoughts now after what was probably one of the more eventful weeks for this proposal?
I mean, it's kind of the same as it's been. It's just I don't feel like we're getting anywhere, and it's both sides of both sides of the issue of the docket are not having any interest in going anywhere. So
Yeah, I think that's one of the more disappointing parts is that it's like, and this is all happening out in the media, right? They're not sitting in a room as I've said that they should have for weeks on weeks now. They're just not sitting in a room and figuring it out. They're just using the media to leverage one way or another way. And it's just alienating fans, the media, the players, the owners, everyone's just being alienated. And when this comes back, do you really feel like fans are going to be happy with baseball or their players? Because I heard Rich Eisen talk about this. What's the one thing that in sports we hate talking about? Money. And guess what we're talking about with baseball? Money. This is not growing the game. This is not helping the game from a marketing standpoint. If you play, right? If they play, the marketing is through the roof because there's nothing else on, right? So it's an absolute mess. And
This isn't them wanting to play. It's them being greedy, you know?
On both sides, I
Yeah.
would say.
Exactly. Yeah,
well,
no, on both sides for sure.
And then I mean, here's what we need to realize, right? If the coronavirus had not happened, there would be no problem here, right?
No, there would absolutely not be a problem because we would already be midway through the season.
Right. The players are getting the deal they made with the owners. Like, the reason I'm not on the player side here is they keep trying to make deals that are absolutely nonsense. You know?
Well,
Like,
I think both are.
keep asking. Well, no, but here's the thing. I actually legitimately think that the owners, when they put out their first deal, that was a reasonable offer for the situation they are in.
Yeah, the 50-50 revenue
Right,
split
that
was
was
fairly
reasonable.
reasonable.
And the freaking players come back saying, no, we want all our money, which is unreasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, wanting.
This whole time, right, exactly. Sorry to interrupt you, Shane, but
No, you're good.
Like, I would want all my money, but at the same time, you have to think long term here, right? We will play baseball again at some point. Like, we as fans will get baseball again at some point. But you know who still has to deal with the owners down the line? The players.
CBA negotiations are
And
coming
the
up pretty soon.
owners are going to have zero reason to want to give them an olive branch.
Yeah.
Honestly, CBA coming up, the owners could be like, you know what? You did not work with us 1 inch. Guess what? We're perfectly fine not having a season and not paying you. We'll go ahead. We'll keep our money we would have paid you and just go sit in our nice fancy houses and not give you an inch.
And not only that, some owners, I believe Jeff Passan talked about this, some owners are fine without a 2020 season even.
Yeah.
They're just like, whatever. Like, if we can figure it out, we're done.
It would save teams money not to have a 2020 season. They will lose money playing games without fans in the stands, and they will save money without even having a season. So
yeah, lose money by having games without fans and having to pay players as much as they want. Yeah. I mean, at this rate, honestly, I would be surprised if we had a season.
Yeah, I think it's over. I think we're just going to keep talking about proposal after proposal after proposal, and then as we're going to get to, the NHL and the NBA is going to start in July, and then people are going to be like, "Well, what are you doing, MLB?"
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. But let's get to the other two leagues who are actually making progress. The NHL plans to return with 24 teams, 24-team format. They're also considering Chicago, Columbus, Dallas, Edmonton, Vegas, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Pittsburgh, Toronto, and Vancouver as hub cities. They're planning to pick 2 out of that bunch. Thoughts on the the NHL's progress to potentially get to a season under this format?
I think it's. I'm glad that they're trying to get a season, obviously, or finish the season. But this 24-team thing is odd to me. Because I get that this is an abnormal year, obviously, but to do this, it just seems kind of like just a very random move to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what city it'll be, who knows? I would bet Las Vegas would be one. Because there's been some
Vegas and LA at this moment.
I don't think they'd want to. I don't think they'd want to put a top 4 team in a host city, because that would come across as,
Yeah. Because I'm just thinking of places with less people and less infections.
I don't think Canada. I don't think Canada will get one because they have the whole closed border thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I think maybe Dallas because they're in Texas.
Or Pittsburgh, I could see that.
I could see Florida. Florida could be one.
Yeah, Florida definitely.
Because they have very low.
See, you bring up a good point, Brandon. What about those closures up in Canada for U.S. and Canada? Though those closures, how is that going to work? Getting teams like Toronto, right? Like the Maple Leafs or Vancouver into these cities.
I think.
If they bring in the revenue, I think they'll be like, yeah, it's all right.
I don't think it'll be a problem.
They'll make an exception.
I guess I don't think it'll be a problem because, well, one, the teams have private planes.
Yeah.
They don't fly commercials, so they can just use their private planes. And let's be honest here, any team coming from Canada is probably not really going to last that long in the tournament.
Yeah, that's also a fact.
They're all kind of bad this year, or not bad. Toronto wasn't bad. They're just probably their path is not very favorable.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I think what we're going to see is one of the lesser teams ending up as a host. I could see a double Florida situation or I could see like Carolina. I could see it's not going to be Columbus. It's not going to be Pittsburgh. It's not going to be Boston or Philly or Washington.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I don't know. Maybe Dallas and Florida.
Yeah, Dallas. Yeah, Dallas and Florida would be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I really think they're going to try to do a big city thing, but I'm not sure at this moment.
I mean, what's the point in doing a big city thing when there's not
there's
going to
no
have
fans, right? So it's, yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. I don't know. And it's also interesting, like if Vancouver's a hub city, as you said, Toronto is a potential hub city. Like if they can't play, the Canucks won't be able to play in Vancouver because they're saying it's going to have some home field advantage thing. So they're still going to have to travel somewhere. So I don't know. Any last thoughts about this whole system? Brandon, what is your thoughts on like the system themselves actually?
Like the route, like the
2014 thing, the qualifying things, are you happy with it?
Well, I mean, I think I've already talked about this on air that I don't think it's. I think, like, it kind of bothers me that, and I know it's a weird situation, but like, it bothers me that we have teams like Montreal and like crappy teams that did not play very well. Literally, it's every team this year except for like what, 4?
Yeah, 4 or 5, something like that.
How is that the playoffs? You know, like how is it a playoff if you basically have said, you know what, it doesn't matter this year. It doesn't matter that you sucked. Like, you get to be in the playoffs. Like,
I mean, a lot can change in 30 games. I think that's kind of what they're saying. But 24 is too big for that.
Here's my thing. A lot of these teams at the bottom, their trajectory was sucking. Like, they were
their
bad.
Trajectory was the lottery, basically.
Right. Like, they hadn't done well from a lot of the year, and they were not at the point. Unlike teams like Toronto or Boston or Pittsburgh or Vancouver, sort of.
Yeah, or then would you have preferred like 20 or 22 instead of 24?
Way less than 20. Like, I feel like
16.
20. I mean, 16's like would be better for me because it's only a couple added teams up from the usual.
Yeah.
Like, 24 is like adding a whole nother 12 teams, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see it. I just think it's good that we're going to have playoff hockey, and I think one of the thing that what's going to happen is that these teams that were really bad for most of the year are going to lose really early in the tournament anyway. So I don't think it's going to have a major effect.
What I do find interesting is that they're planning to do 24 teams, 5-game rounds.
For the qualifiers,
For the qualifiers.
And then I think they're doing the same thing for the top 4 as well.
They're basically sticking with the same way they've done it before, except instead of it being rounds of 7, it's rounds of 5.
I think they will get to 7 at some point, but yeah, at the beginning it's going to be 5.
I think the Stanley Cup will be 7.
Yeah, the Stanley Cup will certainly be 7.
But do we know when the Stanley Cup would even happen?
It would be, so let's say they start mid to late July, it would end around September 15th to September 20th.
So literally we would have the NFL opening weekend.
The NBA is planning the same thing.
So opening, so like what? No, second week of
gonna be 3 hours long.
Second week of NFL action, NBA championship, NHL Stanley Cup.
The Stanley Cup final, yeah, all happening at the same time.
Oh my goodness!
Again, we're not sure about how the NFL or college football is going to go, but assuming that does happen, seems to be the trajectory.
The NFL has basically, without saying it, they've sent out the vibes that come hell or high water, they are playing a season of football this year.
Right, but it's how it starts or whatever, which we're still not too sure about. Let's go into the NBA. There were a lot of different types of formats. So the group stage format was interesting. Obviously, it seems consensus they're going to have a play-in tournament, but they are planning to meet on Thursday to officially announce we're going to be in Orlando. We're going to have some type of probably play-in format, and they're going to start as it stands right now, it seems like they're going to start July 31st in Orlando. Thoughts, guys?
Wait, July 31st?
Yes, July 31st.
Holy crap! So that like
They won't be done until like October.
how many teams are going to be in that?
I'm not sure. I believe it's going to be 18 to 20.
Are you kidding me? That's stupid.
Are you upset
so
that they're
dumb.
starting that late in July?
It's so dumb to start July 31st with a team with a set of 18 to 20 teams playing what 5 to 7 games like series that will not put you done until until September, October, and then probably starting the next season in
December. It's going to be December 25th.
So what are they going to basically just finish the season, go right into training camp?
Pretty much, or close to, yeah.
Where's the draft? Where's the
The draft lottery would be done, I think, sometime in August or early September, and then the draft will be a week after.
It will make for some interesting conversation because basically it'll be like the NFL where there is no off season.
Yeah. According to Shams of The Athletic, they're saying there's some talk that they would like to have the season end by October 1st.
That's undoable.
I don't think that's doable.
You can't end it by October 1st if you're playing
in July.
18 to 20.
I don't know. There's a lot of options.
If you do 18, and that's 18 divided by 2 is 9?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
So then 9, and then you divide that by 2, and you get down. Well, no, you can't do 18 because it's you get an odd number. So you'd have to do 20.
Yeah, so 20 to 22 actually. 20 to 22.
So if you do 20, that takes you down to 10, and then to 5. Am I doing this math right?
Well, here's my thing.
No, I'm not doing this math right.
No, you're not, but that's okay. Here's my thing.
We're not math geniuses here, and we don't intend to be on this show.
That's the quote of the decade from Robert.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. You were doing that divided by 2 correctly, but the tournaments work a little differently like that because it has to be by 4 or whatever. Anyways.
It's whatever.
Yeah. So, what was I going to say? What were we talking about?
Talking about the NBA's proposal, man.
Yeah.
The 2022 thing.
So, okay, here's my thing. You gotta, and this doesn't just pertain to this season. This is just a thought that I have on the NBA and the NHL as a whole. Why do we need a 7-game series?
It's a balancing thing. They will never change it. They will never change that.
Because
I know it would never
NFL
change, but wouldn't 5 work?
No.
Like best of 5.
I mean, it does. It did. That was the NBA. Like at the start of the playoffs, it was a best of 5, and they changed it to a best of 7 because of more revenue.
Yeah.
But it's just they're not going to change it. And by the way, here's the thing: Adam Silver has stated that he wants 7-game series. They're not going to have 5-game series, regardless of how long it takes.
Oh, good.
So they want a 7-game series for each of these.
Basically, Silver's saying he's fine with going all the way till right up to the start of the next season.
Pretty much.
So Shams, as you said, they've discussed 4 competition scenarios. 16 teams, they go directly to playoffs. 20 teams, group/stage play. 22 teams, games to determine seeding play-in tournament for final seeds. 30 teams, 72-game regular season with play-in tourney.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to do 30 teams. There's no point of 30 teams because what's the point of having the Warriors and the Knicks?
Yeah, LMAO. If they did LMAO, if they had to play 30 more games before the play-in tournament, oh my god.
Yeah. And also, I think the group play, the more I've thought about the group play, the more I like it. Because it's like, then it doesn't degrade the season. Because
Because it makes you think of soccer.
Yeah,
You know,
but it's not just that. I think it would actually be really competitive, and I think people would really enjoy it.
They just need to get around us to decide to starting the NBA again, so I can watch NBA on TNT.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just hear do 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 do.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
I just want it to start. I don't really care what form it's in.
I know, right? Just give me my basketball.
Because this was a great season. I just want to see it through.
Yeah. Same.
It was a great season only because everyone had to bow down and respect the power that is the Raptors.
Oh God.
That was last year.
No, it's also this year, fool. Everybody thought the Raptors were going to be bad this year.
It's the Battle of LA. No one thought the Raptors would be bad.
Dude, everybody was like, everyone was like,
Just
oh,
not as
Kawhi's
good.
gone.
I had them
Now
as
they're
like
gonna
a
be
3 or 4,
terrible.
I think. I had them as a 3 or 4 to start the year.
We
Yeah,
have
so did I.
opened our massive Raptor jaws and gone.
Science with Brennan. Don't take math from him, but take science.
Yeah, I might not be mathematics smart, but I'm Raptor smart.
All right, let's move on from the weird ending that was our NBA conversation to the NFL. The NFL has tabled both the 4th and 15 onside kick and the sky judge, but they've also voted to kill the Belichick penalty rule thing. But let's talk about the onside kick and the sky judge. Are you surprised that they tabled both of them at this week's owner meetings?
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised that they would table something that would make it easier to see when the refs are being bad at their job. But and the onside kick just, I mean, I don't know. It kind of made sense, but it needed a little bit more work, I feel like.
I just think the 4th and 15 rule, like, it was so weird because a week ago we were talking about how most owners actually supported it. I don't understand what changed in a week to say, oh, this isn't going to work. I think there had to be some concern about teams like the Chiefs who have a high-powered offense, for example, and I think that might have caused some owners some worry. Shane, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I was like that. The 4th and 15 rule. I was kind of excited to see that. I was hoping it would become a thing, but I wasn't really surprised when it wasn't voted out because the NFL always seems to table new and innovative, exciting rules. But that's all right.
I mean, I think they're tabling it for a year also because of the situation we're in. They're trying not to make so many significant changes with all the other struggles potentially. Because I do feel like this is going to get approved at some point. I don't see why it wouldn't, even as like a preseason test run, which I'm surprised they didn't do for this role anyway.
Well, I mean, the reason they didn't do that, I'm sure, is probably because they're not even sure if they're going to have a preseason.
Well, they already said they're going to use the sky judge in the preseason, so I don't know why they wouldn't use this.
True. I don't know. I think, either they just don't feel like this is the right time, or I don't know.
I just think for how many teams, I think the Broncos proposed it last year. This year, the Eagles proposed it. I don't see a way where they can't, where either they approve this or they approve this for the preseason next year. I just don't see a way why I don't see this time next year a team not proposing this again. I don't see
somebody will.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. I mean, it's just a matter of when and if they actually decide to implement it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I would like to see it, but considering this has been kind of an ongoing thing, I mean, who knows when that would be.
All right, before we get to some Browns topics, Brandon, I'll start with you. According to bankruptcy filings, the XFL could have a new owner and return next year in the spring. What's your thoughts on where the XFL stands right now, and do you think it's a league that can at least have some intrigue for fans and for media members over the next few years if they find a new owner?
So I was a little surprised that that the XFL went down, not because of COVID, but because of supposedly funding. Because at the beginning of this whole thing, I believed that it would have funding for at least 2 years. But honestly, if they can get someone to fund it, I'm down. I thought it was actually pretty fun to watch. It was pretty good football. I mean, it's not NFL, but like nothing's going to compete with the NFL.
Mm-hmm. See, I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing with these leagues is like guys like PJ Walker, right? Who probably wouldn't have gotten a shot in the NFL, even with his young age. And then you see him play in the XFL and how overly impressive he was compared to every other quarterback in that league. For those guys to get those opportunities that they wouldn't get if this league didn't exist is why I think it's important to have.
Well, I mean, if you remember back in the day, there was NFL Europe,
Right.
which, I mean, it produced a lot of big name players.
Right.
So, I mean, I think it would only be good for you'd think. I'm kind of surprised the NFL hasn't reached out to the XFL and be like, hey, like let's find a way to set it up as like some sort of
minor league system
for the NFL. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like it can be its own league, but like it's working in affiliation with the NFL, and teams have teams in the XFL that they can maybe after every season they can look at players that they want to like pick and bring up for a tryout in spring training.
I think or training camps, but
or training camp, yeah.
I think the team affiliation stuff wouldn't really work. I think the NFL did support the XFL in some degree, but I implore the new owner, whoever it will be, to have a much bigger partnership with them and say, hey, you can let these have them play for one season and then let the floodgates out like we had this year, and let these players be free agents in the NFL and see who can pick them up. Have an open market, and that's what it was this year. And I think that's why I think the XFL should exist. Is that I think it's important for a player standpoint, because I think the NFLPA would be all over this, to have another league for these players who probably wouldn't get a shot. Shane, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I am all in favor of keeping it and having it around. It's I mean, like you said, it's good to have this like minor league of sorts, where, because I mean, stuff like that exists for every other sport. I mean, there are multiple leagues for baseball and basketball and hockey, soccer, whatever. But in football, there's the CFL, but I mean, let's be honest. Does anyone really care about that? No.
Well, it's also a lot of restrictions in terms of American players and who can come to the NFL. There's like a bunch of restrictions with that.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I think, I mean, I agree with Brennan. I would think that they would have had enough money for the next, couple of years. But then again, they only played like half their season, and they didn't make a ton of money since they are brand new. And just considering all this COVID stuff, it's understandable why something like this would happen to them. But yeah, I mean, there is, from an owner's perspective, there is serious potential to make some money with this league. So I can't imagine it's gone.
Yeah, for sure.
Or even if it comes back in, some other form or something, I don't know. But I definitely don't believe that this is the end of this type of football.
Yeah, for sure.
Plus, it's more football, and as Americans, we for some reason love it way too much, and so we will eat up as much of it as we can. So there you go.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So Adam Schefter reports that the Browns offered the most money to date for Jadeveon Clowney. Richest offer on the table. He hasn't taken it. Apparently, he's not really interested in the Browns, but he's also received multiple offers from the Titans and the Seahawks. He hasn't agreed to any of these offers. Where do you think Clowney and his management are standing right now, and how do you feel about him not taking this Browns deal? We obviously don't know how much money it was, but how are you feeling about it?
Well, I don't know what I'm feeling about it because he himself says differing things all the time. Like originally he was saying that he just wants a ring, but now he's like, no, I want all this money and yada, yeah. It's like, okay, well, you can't have both. I mean, you could, but that'd be hard. I mean, I think, if he goes to Cleveland, yeah, he's going to get more money supposedly, but I mean, they're not going to win a title. Let's just be honest. They're way too dysfunctional. They don't know what their direction is yet. And quite frankly, I think that they're just too loud. Anyways, Tennessee, yeah, they might have something going there. I mean, I want to see like a full year with Tannehill and all this stuff.
Another year.
Yeah, and then there was rumors with the Giants for a little bit, and I knew that wasn't going to happen. But
that fizzled out very quickly.
Yeah. So, I mean, based off of all that, I would say that Seattle would be his most likely option, especially because he said during free agency, he said that he would love to come back. Yet he is continuing to not accept contract offers from them. So who knows? I don't know what it is that they're thinking exactly. I mean, the longer he waits, the less money he's probably going to get. So if anything, he's just sabotaging himself.
Yeah.
At this point.
I think more than likely he signs a 1-year deal.
Well, that's what I've been saying for Seattle. I think he reaches out, signs like a 1-year deal. Like, can you be healthy for a whole season?
Yeah, he has a lot of injuries.
I would not be upset though if we signed him to not a huge 1-year deal, because the man, I've said it, even when he had his hernia, just being on the field, his presence is a threat.
Oh, there's no question.
Like, he makes the team better. And also, I would like the signing because you have to admit, he's still one of the best defensive ends in the game. And if you can teach the younger players his skills,
like LJ Collier, for example,
you make the team better down the line.
I wonder if it will probably, at this point, it's probably 1 year 10. I don't think it would be 1 year 15, but 1 year 10 makes a lot of sense. Also,
and if he's not going to go to the Browns, he's not going to go to the Jets.
Yeah, the Jets are off the table as well. Speaking of the Browns, Baker Mayfield moving in silence. He's reportedly turned down a lot of interviews. Do you think his focus is starting to change, or how do you feel about Baker? Like, what does he have to change to be successful in 2020?
I think he thinks that if he can look serious, then he'll be seen as serious. So,
I mean, more than anything, he needs to start acting like a grown-up.
Yeah.
I know it's pretty hard, but,
Yeah.
It's a tough life.
I mean, because if you look at, what was it, when Myles Garrett and
Rudolph.
Yeah, Rudolph got in their little scuffle. I gained a lot of respect for Baker that night because everybody was talking crap and whatever on both sides. And I was expecting him to do that as well when he stepped up on the podium. But he was like, then he came out and he said, "Yeah, what happened tonight? I don't care how it started or why it started. It's unacceptable. Shouldn't have happened, and it won't happen." And I
Yeah,
was like, "Wow, okay, that's actually wow." You know
I
what I
think I
mean? And
remember the night after, like the day after that happened, or the week after it happened when we talked about it
It was the day
on the
after. We
show.
talked about it on the
Yeah,
show the day
that's
and
right.
after.
Yeah, it was
and I remember saying like and we might have talked about it that night on Facebook or something, but I remember
yeah,
saying like specifically saying like I was impressed. Like if he can
yeah,
be like that throughout the whole season, I think finally the Browns could have someone to to follow.
yeah.
Um,
It would
Because
certainly
right
go in a
now,
different direction. That's for sure.
it's just it's a lot of talented guys. It is. They have their roster's pretty stacked, but their heads are just in the clouds.
yeah,
And especially in a sport like football, that does not work. I mean, it's simple as that, you know.
yeah. It's a
That's
bunch of
why,
egos just following
right?
each other.
Because you gotta play as a team. You can't be flashy and play for yourself, which is what a lot of those guys are doing, unfortunately. But you know, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Definitely if Baker starts kind of getting on the right foot, getting more mature, this team has a much different trajectory. And it's definitely
Yeah,
a playoff team if that's the case.
especially I mean, if it was literally anybody else, like a receiver or something, I wouldn't care as much
It doesn't
because
matter. It doesn't matter as much. No.
no, yeah, but then I mean, he's supposed to be the leader, the responsible guy, the one that the team and the fans look up to. And, this is the example he's setting for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
Uh,
so
uh, all right, let's get to
anyways.
our division previews. Obviously, the highlight of our
Yeah.
shows for the next few weeks now, or the past few weeks and the next few weeks. We're doing the NFC East. We are starting, with the Philadelphia Eagles, 9-7, finished first in the division. Obviously, lost to the Seahawks, 17-9. Let's first start with their schedule. They open up with Washington, then the Rams. What are you guys' thoughts on this schedule here?
Well, I'm just looking at it. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, they got some tough games, San Francisco, Baltimore. That won't be easy. Seattle, New Orleans, but they play in a pretty weak division, so that helps them tremendously.
Yeah, like I think we can all just save ourselves some time and just be like Philadelphia is gonna win it all in their division.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
I just feel like this division sucks so much.
we'll get to why as we move along, but
Uh,
I think the Eagles, right? I think the Eagles are certainly the best team in the division, but a lot of people see the Cowboys as a true threat to
Why?
them in this division. But we'll get to the Cowboys in a bit.
I
But yeah,
don't get it.
this schedule is
yeah,
this schedule is pretty easy. I think you look maybe week 12, week 13, week 14, you got Seattle, Green Bay, and New Orleans. That's a little bit tough. And then, of course, Arizona. That stretch at the end is a little bit difficult, but this team has a schedule where they should be able to find a way to win this division.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, not even this. I mean, aside from the schedule, the talent on their team alone should be able to carry them to winning the division. But
And we talked about the
yeah,
issues at receiver last year with the
yeah.
Eagles, and they really fixed that. It's like it was just injuries. We got them
absolutely.
back,
And
So
like this team would have been formidable going against Seattle in the playoffs if they hadn't had all their players like die.
well,
Like in
not
Yeah,
die, but get
in the
injured.
three,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. Like basically like get injured in the 3 weeks leading up to the playoffs,
And early on in the season too.
and then have their best and then have their starting quarterback get taken out like in the first 15 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
yeah.
Before
I don't
we
know if
get
we ever
to,
talked about that play.
I think we might have for a bit, but let's talk about Jalen Hurts first and this quarterback situation before we get to X Factor players. Jalen Hurts, do you expect him to be on the field in some capacity next year?
I
Yes.
think he'll be there as a wide receiver.
Receiver.
I mean, I guess he could be.
I don't think he'll be. I don't think he'll play quarterback this year.
Well, I think it'll. I think it'll be like a
Taysom Hill
what was it?
situation, kind of.
No, like an Alabama situation from whatever year it was after.
Like 15 or 16, something like that.
Yeah, when he and Tua were the
Two
starters.
quarterbacks.
You know, like they both, like, Tua played more as a passer, like Wentz would, and then Hurts would go in and do lots of, like, option plays and stuff like that. Which is, the second they drafted him that high as they did, I was like, okay, that has to be what they're thinking, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have, picked him up that early. So, and they saw that was effective for Alabama. So maybe they are thinking, hey, let's try it ourselves. I mean, it's like, Doug Peterson. I think he's a much smarter coach than people give him credit for.
No, he absolutely is.
Just with the way that he has been able to develop systems around whatever quarterback he had and won a freaking Super Bowl with it. I mean, come on. That's like,
with Nick Foles.
And beat Bill Belichick and Tom freaking Brady in a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. That is yeah.
That's impressive in itself. Okay, so two things for the Jalen Hurts pick. One that's been reported, one that's kind of been theorized. Of course, one is that the theorizing point is that Carson Wentz gets hurt often. And that Hurts can definitely step in and do something. As you talked about with Nick Foles, they feel like they can develop Hurts to be a much different quarterback than Foles, but come in right away if need be. Second, and this has been pretty widely reported, so they missed out on Russell Wilson in 2012. And they look at Jalen Hurts as that type of player. And they didn't want to pass up on it. And that's why they took him in the second round.
He's more like a Lamar Jackson type to me.
Mm-hmm. But we're talking about early Russell Wilson, like 2012, 2013 Russell.
Well, yeah, okay, maybe.
Brandon, thoughts on Jalen Hurts' pick here for Phil?
Like, to me, it's like a long-term thing. It's definitely not like a start right away pick,
I mean, I don't think...
For me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they are planning on having him, like, take over anytime soon, I think also part of it, too, is the fact that, I mean, Wentz is amazing, obviously, but he's hurt a lot. And,
right.
That would worry me. I would want to get a guy that established a good backup guy that I can really rely on. Because, I mean, I'll just be honest, as good as Wentz is, I just don't trust him. Because he gets hurt every year, it seems like.
Yeah.
Which is horrible, but it's just, it's the way it is, unfortunately. So I would guess that's part of it as well, but yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
All right, so X Factor players for the Eagles. Who is it? Who wants to start?
Well, I mean, for me, it's got to be the man I was just talking about, Carson Wentz, because regardless of, if you look at all those injuries that they sustained at the end of last year, the fact that he was able to hold that offense together and go and win all those games at the end of the season with a backup running back as your slot receiver, that's pretty incredible.
In Boston Scott, right?
Yeah, that's that's pretty incredible. And it's been very clear recently that they have struggled greatly when he is not playing, and so therefore I think that he he is definitely the most important piece for this team. And of course, they need everyone to, not everyone, but they need more people to stay healthy next year. You know what I mean? That'll obviously help.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
I think my pick is it's not just one person. It's the entire wide receiver core.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just feel like if the wide receiver core can stay healthy, this team should have no reason not to just easily win this division.
No doubt. Yeah. So there's a lot of options, right? You mentioned the receiver core. They just picked up Jalen Reagor, who's an absolute burner, which will definitely help Carson Wentz. Andre Dillard, the Washington State first-round pick from last year, starting at left tackle. Then they also helped out their defense by picking up Darius Slay. They needed help at corner really badly last year. Their secondary was terrible. But for me, I got to go with a player that I really think is going to have a breakout year, running back Miles Sanders. He was excellent in the playoffs, really a huge part of their offense, especially when Wentz went down. I expect a big year out of him. And if Carson Wentz can hand the ball off to Sanders, 15, 20 times a game, it will help Wentz, not have to throw the ball as much and limit his injury risk as well. So I'm going to go with Miles Sanders, second-year player out of Penn State.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he definitely had some good moments there last season, but I think getting him in this next season just to complete that offense, you know what I mean? Because you do have to have a good run game as well, and yeah, I agree. I'm definitely expecting him to pop off this year. So that'll be exciting to see.
All right, let's go to the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys. Let's start with Dak Prescott. He wants more money. That's simple. He wants to beat Russell Wilson in terms of money annually. I think he's looking for about $45 million annually.
So I want to start off right away by saying this. Any team that has a quarterback like Dak Prescott who's looking for money should be scared, because any team that has a quarterback that's only thinking about getting high levels of money like that is not thinking about what every team should be thinking about, which is getting those Super Bowl rings.
Mm-hmm.
If you are asking for $40 million annually, you are basically saying, I don't care about getting a Super Bowl. I don't care about being able to bring in the pieces around me. I just care about getting that cheddar.
Well, here's the deal. If you're Patrick Mahomes, you're going to take about 40-some mil, right? But the difference between the Cowboys and the Chiefs is that Andy Reid knows. Right.
And
he deserves that. He deserves that, but not only that. Once he takes that money, are we expecting the Chiefs to turn out the lights on a Super Bowl contention? We're not, because we know Andy Reid is an excellent coach and that coaching staff is amazing, and they'll figure out a way, even with all the money problems they've already have with Sammy Watkins. They had to readjust his deal. They're going to figure it out.
I would say also, the difference is between, going back to your thing talking about Russell Wilson, how he has 35 and Prescott wants 40. Russell only got the 35 because the Seahawks made the choice going into that position. They were like, we want to keep this guy. We have a bunch of old players on defense. We're going to clean house, and we're going to switch our mentality from defensive-minded to switching over to offensive-minded. Pay Russell Wilson the money he wants, keep him around, plus be able to open up salary cap to keep him for a longer time.
Mm-hmm.
The problem the Giants have, and the Cowboys have, and I think you were getting into this a little bit, is not only do they have a quarterback who doesn't deserve to be paid $40 million a year
Mm-hmm.
and has not even once proved to me that he does, he also is just someone who doesn't have a good attitude.
I think he's one of the more mature running back or quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's actually quite mature.
I feel like there's a difference between being mature and like having your like locker room.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like he has his locker room and has never had his locker room. And frankly, the problem is, and I think this is a problem amongst the entire Dallas Cowboys with Jerry Jones as their GM. And I said this during the draft, and I'll say it over and over and over again. He drafts for flash, not for like how it clicks with the team.
Yeah,
Which
but
is
I mean,
what the Seahawks do.
CD Lamb is unique though in terms of talent, and that was tough to pass
CD
up.
Lamb would have clicked with anybody.
Right.
I mean, he's that good.
Because, I mean, that's the Cowboys brand. You know, they're just because they're America's team. They want to have attention, make a show, make money. That's who they are. You know what I mean?
But Jerry wants to win a Super Bowl.
Then Jerry's got to figure out sooner or later the big money players are not always going to get you to the Super Bowl. I mean, hell, look at the Seahawks. Like we won our Super Bowl with a bunch of players that everybody went, who?
Right.
Like
at first.
That's the great, but like you have to admit, like the Seahawks do it well. They managed to, yes, they had 2 years where they were okay, but they managed to rebuild their team.
Yeah.
Completely from a defense focus to an offense focus.
And here's the difference, though, if we want to compare the Seahawks to the Cowboys and their formality, is that Russell can make the playoffs every year. Dak can't. Yeah. Russell, we know that the Seahawks are going to make the playoffs at a 10-6, 11-5, regardless of the team, because Russell's just that good of a player.
Russell
Dak
wills
isn't that player
to get it done.
Right.
He makes the plays. Like I watch a Seahawks game. And, like, if Russell Wilson, God forbid, eventually went to another team, I would instantly watch him on another team and be like, that team they're going to win if it was in the fourth quarter. Because Russell Wilson is, like, honestly, I feel like Russell Wilson's X factor in Madden should just be, like, if you're in the fourth quarter and you have Russell Wilson, you're going to win.
Yeah.
No matter what. You just win instantly.
So, two things with Dak. So, first, I'm going to say, this has been outlined all over the media. Here is his agent's pitch to Jerry Jones for why he deserves $40+ million. Here it is. I'm going to lay it all out. One, he was drafted as a 4th-round pick, and he's overachieved that by 10th amount, which he has. Let's not forget he's overachieved that 4th-round pick by a lot. And
wait.
Let me finish.
What is your argument for overachieving the 4th? What has he done?
Well, hang on.
He doesn't have a Super Bowl. He doesn't have. Like,
he's lost in the divisional round.
He lost in the divisional round. He's been to the Pro Bowl a couple times.
$40 million.
But like he's asking for $40 million. Like he has not overachieved to me.
So let me finish. So the agent's claim is $40 million. Here's why he deserves it. 4th-round pick, overachieved dramatically. Because when you look statistically at 4th-round picks, they don't last in the league, especially at the quarterback position. Okay, and then number 2 is that they've won the division every year. Dak's been the quarterback, and that's their claim. That's their claim.
Except last year.
Look at the division.
Right, except last year. Right, look at the division. That's always been my claim. Yes.
It's a trash-ass division. You got the Redskins, Giants, and Eagles. Like.
Exactly. It's a terrible argument. It's a terrible argument.
Actually, no. Dak is. No, he hasn't won every. Because
no.
Or most years,
Eagles.
I should say. Most years.
No, actually, he hasn't even won most years.
Really? Because
that's
part of the claim.
The Eagles have won the division the last 3 years, haven't they?
Yeah.
Dak
Prescott.
No. The Eagles won this last year and the year before when they went to the Super Bowl. Dallas did win last year.
Dak Prescott. Okay, I'm gonna look at so his
3 years.
Oh wow,
as a 4 seed.
I didn't even know he's only been in the league for 4 years.
Well, yeah, this is his rookie contract.
Yeah. Okay, so I will say this, like
So he's won the division twice.
As
and lost
individually
twice,
as a
second.
Here's what I'll say. Individually, and this is the problem. This is his problem. Individually, as a quarterback, he has amazing stats every year.
Yeah, he does.
He's a fantasy juggernaut.
But I don't want a fantasy juggernaut on my team. I want someone who's gonna get me to the damn playoffs.
Right. You don't care about your fantasy team when you're
if
a GM.
you asked, I guarantee you, if you asked Russell, if Pete Carroll and John Schneider went to Russell Wilson and said, "Hey, Russell, we want you to restructure your contract so you'll still get your money, but it'll be over a larger amount of time, but we'll be able to get more players to make it to the playoffs," he would say, "Hell yes." Any day of the week.
Right. And I think Mahomes would probably do the same thing. I think a lot of quarterbacks would do the same thing. But let me say this as well. Byron Jones left last year. I keep making this claim. Byron Jones is now a Miami Dolphin. Do you realize that the offensive line that Dak needs to be successful is all going to be gone in 2 years? They're not going to have as good of a defense. They're going to be in cap heck. They're going to be in cap danger.
Hell forever.
I know. They're going to be just like messed up. And the team's not going to be as good. And then Dak is not going to look as good. He's not going to look like a first-round pick.
You know what we're all arguing about, what it comes down to at the end of the day with the Giants? With the Cowboys? They need to get rid of Jerry Jones as their GM.
We've talked about this for a long time.
I think – keep the guy as the owner because he's rich and he can do the money things. Fine, whatever. But have somebody as general manager who actually knows something about football.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You look at the Seahawks when we had our guy when he left and Schneider came in. It was like night and day. Like instantly, it started like turning it around. Like it's a hard position to do well in the NFL. You have to have GMs who can see the pieces, see the players who don't stick out right away. Like I think they said in the draft, it was like the key player, the key draft picks are from 3rd to 7th round because those are the players that are going to see the field the most, and that's why the Seahawks do so well. And the Giants kind of stink it up.
Right.
Or Giants, Cowboys, whatever.
Well, I mean, the Cowboys draft well early. They don't draft well late. They draft well in like the first couple rounds.
You don't find most successful players in the first round.
All right, guys. X Factor players for the Dallas Cowboys.
I honestly have no idea.
Maybe Zeke? I don't know.
I mean, I think there's a lot of options. I think you can go CeeDee Lamb. I think you can go Michael Gallup.
I actually know who it is. I'm going with Joe Looney. Because he's replacing maybe the best center we've seen in the league.
That's true. That's a really good pick.
Long time. Like, like no one could penetrate up. Like if Russell Wilson had that level of center, even a center like that, he would be in heaven. He'd just be like, I'm standing here, I'm surveying, just like I got time. I think Joe Looney is going to be he's going to need to really prove it.
Or if Tyler Beadosh starts. Let's not
either one of them.
Right.
But all I know is their offensive line is not going to be as good.
I think they'll be okay. I don't think they'll be as incredible. They haven't really been as incredible the last couple of years.
I mean, they were 8-8. That's not good by any stretch of the imagination. But
I think teams are just going to target. They're going to have people just. If I was a defensive coordinator, I'd be like, we're playing the Cowboys. I'm gonna have my nose guards blitz the crap out of them.
Yeah.
Shane, who is it for you? After thinking it through a little bit.
I'll differ from you. I'll say Amari Cooper.
Huh.
Just because statistically they win a lot more when he is playing and playing well. Like the difference is actually kind of shocking. So yeah, I mean, I'll go with him. It's just it's hard for me to think of like one guy when there is so much going on that is so dysfunctional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just in terms of management and ownership, whatever. I mean, yeah. Because like we said, Dak Prescott, he has great numbers, but he, all that for going 8-8. It's like, okay, well, what does it matter? You know what I mean? They got to have the guy who is clutch and is a difference maker, which is him a lot of times. So he would be my guy.
I think this receiver core is one of the best that Dak has ever had. Michael Gallup had an incredible year. CeeDee Lamb, just a speedster. He's going to climb up the depth chart, no doubt. Chidobe Awuzie has a lot more on his plate. I'll go Trayvon Diggs. Diggs, the other Diggs brother. I think this cornerback group needs an infusion of youth. They're always better when they have youth, right? And most of the time they do. But I think this year especially, they feel like they're a lot younger with Trayvon Diggs. And I think it could make an immediate impact for them to be successful at that position. This defense needs to step up. Remember, 2 years ago when their defense looked phenomenal and their offense wasn't that great? The defense, if they have an incredible year and is like a top 2 or 3 defense, this team could be pretty successful. But I think it's on this defense to really show out next year.
I mean, do you really think that would even be possible, though, that they would have a top 2 or 3 defense?
I don't think so. But I think this team has talent around itself with guys like Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, Jamarcus Lawrence, as I said, Awuzie.
I'm just looking at defenses like the Patriots and the Niners, Ravens.
And even the Steelers, right?
Bills.
So it's going to be difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's certainly going to be difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Niners,
right.
Yeah. Anyways,
it's certainly going to be difficult as we talk about with the Eagles and how good they're going to be. Yeah, maybe 8-8 is where they're going to be at, or 9 or 7 or something like that. But we'll get to the records in a little bit.
Yeah.
New York Giants finished 4th and 12. We didn't really go through the Cowboys schedule, but that's okay. Let's go through the Giants schedule now. Thoughts on what they're going through in 2020?
Well, I mean, it also doesn't seem that bad. I mean, aside from all the division games, you got San Francisco and Baltimore, which would be tough. Seattle. Cleveland looks like an interesting game to me.
Mm-hmm.
And even Pittsburgh, that should be
to open
interesting.
the season. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're 2 teams that are kind of that I am not super sure about, going into the year. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not easy. It's not an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, it could be worse, in all honesty.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brandon, I'm gonna offer you a different question. What are your feelings about Daniel Jones as a franchise quarterback now after watching him for a season?
I think Daniel Jones 100% is a franchise quarterback.
Yep.
I think people were like, I think he's an example of people kind of putting numbers to a player and being like, oh, this guy. Okay, I think 2 things. One, I think he's an example of someone who came out of a school that is not known for football, and a lot of people don't watch.
Duke.
Not a lot of people watch Duke on college football.
Half the time I forget they even have a football team.
Like I only saw him play a couple times because I turned on the TV like late at night when they were like ESPN was showing like their late night games on like a Wednesday or some shit when they were playing Duke. But like the couple times I saw him play, I was like, okay, he could be in the NFL. But when he was drafted as high as he was drafted, I was like, that's interesting. That's a little shocking. But just the first time I saw him play in the preseason, against the Jets, I was immediately like, this guy is legit.
Yeah, same here.
He's good. And the Giants in this draft made a very prominent statement, basically showing like, hey, like, we are going to put our money behind this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Shane, what is your pick for X Factor player for the New York Football Giants?
Ooh, this is a tough one. There are lots of people to go to. But, you know what? I'm going to give the O-line some love. I'm going to say Andrew Thomas.
Great pick.
And here's why. I think that I think Saquon is a top 5 running back in the NFL. I think he's great for their running game. Daniel Jones, I think, will continue to develop and really come into his own. Evan Ingram, probably the most underrated tight end in the NFL, in my opinion.
He's injured, though. He's injured. He might not come back next year,
That's
so
the
keep
thing.
that in mind.
That's the thing. If he comes back, that'll be a big piece for them. Obviously, I think their receiving core is good enough. I mean, it's not
very
amazing,
young,
but
other than Golden Tate. Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton are very young pieces.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the generic. Oh, were you done? Sorry.
No, but anyways,
sorry.
I just the biggest piece that they obviously needed to improve was offensive line, and I was surprised that they went with Thomas. There were a few people that I probably would have picked before him, but still, I mean, it's I'm curious to see what kind of an effect he has, because I mean they drafted him 4th, so they really do believe in this guy, obviously. Especially since they picked him over a few players that were generally considered to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, like I said, the offensive line is what I think really needs the most work, and so that is an interesting kind of starting piece for that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm done. Go ahead, Brandon.
I'm gonna go with the generic answer and say Daniel Jones.
That's fair.
I think he had a really good season last year, for what he had around him, and I think he could have an even better season this year.
Yeah, for sure. They not only started working on the line with Andrew Thomas, who I was one of the few people who had Andrew Thomas as the number 1 lineman on my board going into the draft, actually pretty much throughout the whole process. But they also got Will Hernandez in the 2nd round last year, so their 2 draft picks were Daniel Jones and Will Hernandez. Will Hernandez was really good last year. He's certainly continuing to be a good development piece for them as well. So, as you mentioned, Shane, they really are starting to work on their line. There's a lot of options here. I love Sterling Shepard and Slayton. I still have a huge problem with the Golden Tate contract. It's really not that good of a contract. Leonard Williams didn't have a fantastic year. Let's go Blake Martinez. For me, their linebacking core has been terrible for a few years now. And I just think having a guy like Blake Martinez, he's very underrated at that position. He's a really good player. You got to see some. If you haven't watched a lot of Blake Martinez highlights, I highly recommend it, because this guy is a great ball-to-ball guy, around the field guy. He's just a really good linebacker, and having him there to kind of develop this linebacking core a little bit. You have O'Shane Ximenez, who they drafted last year, Lorenzo Carter, Kyler Fackrell as well. This linebacking core needs a lot of help, and Blake Martinez was a great signing for them, but also was really underrated. All right, let's move on to our final team. And our final team for the division previews this week, of course, is the Washington Redskins. Excuse me. All right, I am going to show you guys this. So Chris Sims has his Unbuttoned podcast on NBC, which is, by the way, really good. And they have just started doing his quarterback rankings. And on 39, Dwayne Haskins was 39. He was 38 in 2019. I want to get your guys' thoughts on what he said about Haskins. He says, "I don't know what he is yet. I see talent, but I also see immaturity and rawness." Thoughts on that? Is that an accurate description of how you feel about Haskins as well?
Yeah, I mean, to me, he still looks like a freshman in college or something.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, like I don't know. I mean, I think he could be good, but I don't. I mean, I don't know yet. I'm not I'm not totally convinced of what I have seen thus far. And part of it is the fact that he's not in the best organization, obviously, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, if there's 40 guys on that list, 38 is probably about where I would put him too, to be honest.
Well, he didn't even get a chance to play last year that much.
Well, he played 7 games, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
Which,
And the preseason as well. Brandon, what do you
well, yeah,
think
but who
Ron
cares about
Rivera
that?
has to do? Brandon, what do you think Ron Rivera has to do to develop Haskins and work on him mechanically next year to be successful?
Get him to not throw into double coverage. I don't know. I just feel like I watched him a lot and he made dumb throws. Like, he's someone who throws it. He overthrows a lot, and he also like makes really risky, uncalculated throws. To me, at least.
Yeah, he kind of looks like he's just out there winging it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, he kind of
Yeah.
looks like Cam Newton if he didn't. He's like Cam Newton if Cam Newton didn't have the like actual like good decision making skills sometimes.
Yeah, I do feel like Haskins has a lot of work to develop. I think he needs to develop a lot more, but I think Ron Rivera is the perfect coach for that. I think this team's going to take a while, though, to get to where they need to get to.
Oh,
Even in this
years.
division, it's going to take them.
I
It's
don't
going
think
to take
the
them a few
Redskins
years.
will ever get there.
I think with Haskins, they have a shot. Thoughts on their schedule here, guys?
Well, I mean,
It's not the most interesting. I'll say that much.
yeah. No, it's just. I mean, it's just like any of the other
Yeah, the bottom end of the
NFC
schedule.
East schedule, but
Right. The bottom end is difficult. You got Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Seattle, Carolina. Carolina would be a tough challenge for them. Always Carolina and Washington's a fun matchup for some reason.
it really is.
It is like every year. It's really fun, especially at the end of the year.
But I think that's 5 losses for them at the end, to be honest. But yeah, which is too bad. But it is what it is.
All right, X Factor players for the Redskins.
Oh, jeez. I mean, offensively, I don't even know where to begin because you got a really young, underdeveloped quarterback, an old running back. It's just like I don't. I feel like they don't really know what they're trying to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, with the new regime, you're not sure yet, of course.
Yeah, but I will say a guy that I will definitely have my eye on is Kendall Fuller.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, I think that he's like a good. I think he's a good presence to have on this defense because the defense is bad. So I think having a guy like him who has some skill and some experience will be good. you could also make that argument for a guy like Landon Collins, maybe, or
Right.
yeah. But anyways,
Brandon, who do you have here?
I don't really know. Because, like, I don't know. Maybe.
Do you want me to go?
Maybe-
Do you want me to
I
go
don't
first?
know. I guess I'll go. Maybe, like. Yeah, you can go first.
This is easy, or go second in this case. This is easy. It's Darius Geis.
Yeah.
He needs to. Adrian Peterson's gonna have less of a role next year. I'll tell you that right now. And Darius Geis, unfortunately, with the ACL tear, I had Darius Geis last year as my X Factor player. I'm having him again. I do
You did?
feel like yes, I did. I believe I did.
Huh.
I think I either had
Anyways.
Haskins or Geis. I might have had Haskins, but I think that Geis is the guy that I'm pointing to this year because I want to see what he can become. Like ACL. I thought, that preseason he was excellent. He played sparingly this last season. I just need to see him kind of take over and be that kind of bell cow guy for them, especially for Dwayne Haskins. We talked about he's a little bit raw. He needs a running game. Geis needs to provide that for him because he's going to be the guy who's going to be there long term.
Yeah.
All right, Brandon, what do you have?
I don't know, man. Probably Landon Collins.
Yeah.
This team to me is just so uninspiring. Like,
Yeah.
you watch them play, they're uninspiring. You look at them on paper, they're uninspiring. Most teams in the league, you can look at their team on paper and go like, oh, they got a couple players that stand out. No. Like, I look at the Redskins on paper and they look like poop. I watch them play and they just they bore me. I am bored.
I think Landon Collins is an interesting pick because he really wasn't the same player last year.
I don't know.
He just wasn't. And I think this year he has a shot to really show out.
I
needs to be the leader for this defense.
I just think strong safety is an important position, and I think it's a start back to the top if they can have a strong safety that can actually work well back there.
Yep, for sure. All right, so before we end, I want to talk about some documentaries. Obviously documentaries.
Wait, we didn't give our record predictions.
Oh yeah, do the record predictions. My bad. All right.
Can I go first?
Dang. Do you want to go first,
me?
Brandon?
Are you? Yeah.
I'll go first. I'm gonna go Eagles, Giants, Cowboys, Redskins.
Wait, Eagles, Giants.
Yes.
Me too.
Wow.
And I'm going. I'm gonna do. Eagles are going to be 11-5.
Yep.
I'm gonna have the Giants at 9-7. They're gonna make a big old jump.
Massive jump here.
I'm gonna have the Cowboys being I don't know, like 7-9, and the Redskins are gonna continue being at the bottom of the piles. They're gonna be like 4-12.
Shane, what do you have?
I have like Brennan said, Eagles at 11-5. I'm gonna say 8-8 for the Giants. I don't necessarily think they get a winning record this year, but I do think that they jump and maybe get there the year after. Cowboys, I'll say 7-9, and then Redskins, 4-12. I'll give them one extra win just for the benefit of the doubt.
The Giants are surprisingly up over the Cowboys for you guys. What is your feeling on the Giants having 8-8 and 9-7?
The Giants for me have actually done something to make me believe that they can get better. The Cowboys have just stayed.
The Cowboys have gotten worse.
Meh. Yeah, they've stayed meh or gotten worse. They just haven't done anything to really make me feel blah. Like, like the Giants might not have had the flashier moves, but they've had the moves that have like clicked with the team. To me, I look at a team and I'm like, are you slotting in puzzle pieces to get your team to the promised land? Or are you just putting big egoed players together like the Cowboys or the Browns? Like, that's why last year I was so adamant that the Browns were not going to do well. And was I right or was I right?
Shane, why are you kind of having the same sentiment as Brandon with the Giants?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like like he said. I mean, they've proven to me that they're actually taking logical steps to try and improve and get better. Just with pieces that they've gotten in the off season and kind of the trajectory that they started on with Daniel Jones last year. And meanwhile, Dallas, they declined last year. They only finished 8-8. Should have been way better than that with all their talent. And now they've lost a lot of that talent, especially on the O-line and defensively. So what are they going to do? They're going to get worse. I mean, if you ask me, that just seems like the logical thing. I would be very surprised if they won more than 8 games, to be honest. And maybe they will. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I like I said, I don't think that the Giants will, break out necessarily, but because I think that there are still a lot of teams that are a lot better than them right now. But it's the start of, I think, where they could go in the years to come.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get to these documentaries. First, well, both of these are from ESPN, but first we saw the trailer for Man in the Arena, Tom Brady. Are you guys excited for this documentary?
No.
No, you're not, Brandon.
I'm not excited. I'm intrigued. I always like a good sports documentary. We've talked about this outside of the podcast, but I don't like Tom Brady, and I don't think it'll change my opinion on him at all. So,
here's my question about it. Is it just about Tom and us trying and his attempt to get us to try and like him more, or is it actually about like the Patriots dynasty and how they rose and fell? Because a documentary about that I would be interested in, but a documentary about Tom Brady, like me, I'm cool, whatever. No, I don't care. He can something. I don't know.
I here's the thing. I look at this documentary and I go, yes, this is going to touch on Brady primarily. This is going to touch on his life. It's going to touch on him at Michigan, him getting drafted. But it's also interesting because they are going to touch on Spygate and Deflategate. And I think I'm interested to see what he's going to say about that.
He's just going to deny.
Yeah, exactly. See, I have a similar like.
We won't learn anything.
Right. I have a similar outlook as I do with the Lance documentary about like that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady has made it very clear he has no interest in actually being honest about it at all. We will never fully know what quote unquote really happened, even though we know that they cheated, we know that they're cheaters, and that he's a cheater, pumpkin eater.
And he's fake.
Yes.
I just feel that it's going to be really interesting. And I think those two pieces are going to be interesting. And then the third thing that I'm interested in watching is his recount of Falcons Patriots. Because I want to know more about like how he felt in his mind in that situation in the first quarter going, oh my God, we're down. And how are we going to find a way to get back up?
Well, we know how he felt. He was throwing a friggin'...
Right, but him actually telling the story of that game is something I'm really interested in.
Being a little baby, and that's one of the things I don't like about Tom Brady is that he wins so much that he can't handle losing.
Well, I think the best are always like that. I think the best are always like that, right?
Russell Wilson, you don't see Russell Wilson throwing a hissy fit when he loses.
Mahomes.
Mahomes deals with it. Russell Wilson deals with it.
Well, I mean, I think if you see in his press conference and stuff like that, I really do feel like he's pretty open about that stuff. But
It's not the same as Tom
I
Brady,
understand how
though.
you feel about that. But I think this documentary is just going to really get some interesting insights into just him as a person that I don't think we've seen in a long while. I think that it has the potential to change people's minds about it. But I think considering how it's touching these really difficult topics, there's going to be some episodes where people aren't going to be very happy about
I
it.
mean, look, if he comes into this thing and is open and doesn't hold back, and he actually is honest, and for some reason he actually tells all about Deflategate, that'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm. But
But
you're
I
not
doubt
expecting that. You're not expecting that.
No.
Hell no.
I mean, what reason does he have to basically admit, I cheated twice?
Yeah. I think that's what makes this really interesting. And then let's go to the Lance documentary. Brandon, you mentioned it a little bit. We watched the clip about Michael Ferrari together. I watched the entire first part, but I wanted to get your guys' feelings now after watching that clip and just sort of how you feel about Lance and him in this documentary and what's your impression of it at this moment in time watching that Ferrari clip.
I mean, again, it's how I felt about Lance Armstrong already. Just someone who refuses to recognize that
His fault.
his fault.
Mm-hmm.
Just continues to.
It's not even like it's not even like it's him trying to do damage control.
Yeah.
It's just him like, oh, look at me. Tension's on me. You know.
Yeah.
So, see, this is, if you watch the entire first part, this is what I found, or this is what I liked about it. What I liked about it is, yes, this documentary is called Lance, and it's about Lance Armstrong and all this stuff. But this is, what I loved about it was that it wasn't Lance just being like, oh, here's why I did this or that. They didn't allow that to happen. They wanted an honest recounting of like the whole thing, the entire scope. Yeah, but they got an interesting look at Lance's early life and all this stuff. But in this first part, it was so interesting to see sort of the hypocrisy of cycling as a whole and how broken of a sport it was. Because, I mean, everyone was doping, and it was just with the,
It's like the Russian Olympics.
HPO, yeah, like, or whatever the drug is or whatever. But I felt like that was so interesting. And then just to and then I've always thought about, everyone did it, so why is everyone so bent up about Lance? Well, this documentary explains it. Well, hang on. This documentary explains that question in the most incredible detail, because it's not just that he cheated, and everyone in cycling at that time, or most, like 89% of people in cycling were, cheating. It's that the impact that he made on people is why people are mad at him. It's that the whole live strong thing, the inspiration of him coming back and winning after all the cancer stuff, and he even talked about the cancer thing and said, I think that me taking the red blood cell stuff is like made that cancers grow. I think that's what people don't like about him. It's not just the simple fact that he cheated, because everyone did. It's the fact that the impact he made is honestly false. Everything about that is false, because it wasn't the real him winning those Tour de France's.
I don't think people really care about him, about, like, the reason people don't care so much about other people taking the blood or about doping is that not only did Lance cheat in the sport, he cheated culturally. He created this idea about who Lance Armstrong was and how he was this amazing person, and then he betrayed everyone. He just, out of nowhere, it just came out of nowhere that, like, this guy who had beat cancer, and he has this whole thing where, like, you can do whatever, you can do anything, basically, like the whole mentality of, like, live strong, as you said, and like all that stuff, and then boom, and and I think to this day It's the reason people still hate him is because of his attitude and the way he's like, I did nothing wrong, basically. Like, everybody else did it, which is like, no, you're an adult, dude. Like, live up. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody else did it. You did it too.
Right.
So,
and honestly, this is one of the things that I commend the director of this documentary on. They all look worse. Lance looks like an even worser person, or like he looks more of just a bad person in this documentary than he already was. And then everyone else in cycling that they talked about looks, or most people that they interviewed looked more like a bad person. And I loved the beginning. The beginning set the tone for the whole thing. It was, and many other analysts have talked about this. I think Jalen Jacoby talked about this as well. But like opening up and saying, here's the first question she asked. The first question she asked was, when was the first time you remember doping? Right from that moment on, this is what this is about. This is right from the first minute. This is not about Lance's apology tour. This is about doping. This is about what he did wrong, and this is why these people look terrible, especially Lance.
Well, what's funny is his ego is what ended up. His ego is what got people in the door to interview him, and his ego is what ended up making him look shitty this time around. Because literally, I read an interview with the director, and she was like, I have no idea why he was so open with me about all these questions. Like, he sat for 3 days of interviewing and had no problem with the question.
I think it was the stop process, and he talked about this with Mike Tirico. I went back and watched the interview with Mike Tirico where he was like, I had to see a therapist, and I had to realize, like, I need to be open about this, or else I'm not going to be honest to my kids. I'm not going to be honest to my family or the public. And I think this documentary, as you mentioned, like, the director was like, I'm surprised, but I think it was just kind of him. He needed to be honest and I guess have closure with himself about the mistakes that he made, but he still looked on badly, and this documentary makes him look worse.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, and that's pretty much it. Any last thoughts, guys, before we end up?
Nope. Shane.
Go team. I don't know.
Go team, yeah. Go team. All right. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Same with you, Brandon. Same with you, Shane. And we will see you all next week. Talk soon. Have a great week.